If you are looking for inspiration for going all out for the holidays, then let me de-influence you. This is not going to be the video for you, and probably not the channel for you, because I do not go all out for holidays. Yes, we have things that we do that make them special. I have traditions and celebrations that we do the same way every year that we all look forward to. But for us, it's really just life as usual. Life goes on. So it is Thanksgiving week, and I am doing all of the usual things. I'm milking the cow, baking bread, making meals for my family, homeschooling, and yes, I am a mean mom. I did not give them off all of Thanksgiving week. They are still doing school Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll take off Wednesday through Sunday. And I have a reason for that. That is because I just like to push really hard in the first semester, because I know once springtime rolls around, my kids and me, we're all going to be very antsy. We're going to want to get out in the garden. We're going to be wanting to do all of just the fun spring things that happen around the farm, calving and making cheese and butter and all the things. We just lose our motivation for school. So that just works really well for us to hit it hard in the fall semester and then finish early in the spring. So another normal thing for me to be doing is feeding my sourdough starter. That thing lives on my counter. You can store a sourdough starter in the refrigerator if you're not a daily baker. So if you just want to bake once a week or once a month, just put it in the fridge and pull it out when you need it. Feed it some fresh flour and water and let it wake up and then use it. But I'm home making 3 meals a day every day. So I'm a daily baker. It stays on the counter. It gets fed almost every day. Sometimes I forget. And sourdough just stays in my rotation, whether it's pancakes or pizza or bread. I'm always making something sourdough. And I'm always soaking and sprouting things because things are just more digestible when they're soaked and sprouted. And it's just another thing like sourdough. When you get in the habit of doing these things, it's not really a big deal. So dry beans are very economical. We all know that, right? Like rice and beans. Beans are very filling, economical. Beans get a bad rap, but if you soak them and even do like a really long soak, like a 24 to 36 hour soak, to where they might even start to sprout, and then you boil them and drain the water and you're rinsing them really well, then they're easy to digest. Another very normal thing for me to be doing is using the clothesline as long as it's like above freezing. I love line drying my clothes, letting them just get some fresh air. Like I don't have any need for fresh air scent when we can get the real thing. Something that was kind of out of the ordinary, which, by the way, you can probably tell that I've kind of lost my voice. We have just had the most slow, lingering, weird illness going through my house for the past several weeks that like started as a stomach thing and then turned into losing our voice. It's just, I don't know, but I'm very over it, ready for it to be gone. But something that was a little bit out of the ordinary is that our oldest son bought his first cow. So this was really exciting. I don't know who was more excited, him or me. I was very excited. I did ask his permission for me to be able to document and film and share this, and he said that was okay. So there she is, Big Red. She's a Red Angus. She is a 7-year-old cow, and how this came about was she was actually purchased as a cull cow. Somebody was getting rid of her, just downsizing, and the person who purchased her was going to feed her and ship her, but it turned out that she was pregnant. So she's pregnant. She's due to calve in the spring. And so anyway, he got her for a pretty good price, and she's gentle as can be, so we're very excited. I am very excited. This is like my dream come true for my kids, to see them invest in something that can grow with them and benefit them in years to come. Another normal happening is the little guys, fighting over who gets to turn the water on for the cows. What we see on the outside as far as hair, skin, and nails is really just a reflection of what's going on inside of the body. And it can be a little bit confusing and overwhelming trying to figure out which vitamins and minerals and supplements to target those areas if we want glowing skin and thicker, fuller, longer hair, healthy nails. But Mary Ruth's Organics makes it so simple. They have formulated one-stop shop liquid morning multivitamin and liquid nighttime multi-minerals, so you're getting all of your vitamins and minerals with one easy to take liquid supplement without cutting any corners. So for example, in the liquid morning multivitamin, you are getting fat soluble vitamins A, D, and E, as well as all 8 B vitamins, including 10,000 micrograms of magnesium biotinate, which is just like a really bioavailable form of biotin. It's actually, I think, like 40 times more bioavailable than the standard D-biotin that you get in most supplements. You're also getting Listreva, which has been clinically shown to help grow longer, thicker, fuller hair in as little as 3 weeks, as well as showing improvements in wrinkles and fine lines and just overall skin appearance and smoothness. Now, if you're wondering, well, what is Listreva? It is a unique combination of biotin and a really bioavailable form of silica that work together to boost our body's natural hair and skin support systems. So silica is just a trace mineral that our body uses to maintain the structure and strength of hair and skin. And when it's paired with biotin in this specific way, then it's really effective. In the liquid morning multivitamin, you're also getting methylated folate that is ready for your body to absorb and use. So once again, this really is covering all of your bases for bodily functions such as metabolism, energy production, DNA and RNA synthesis and repair, circulatory health, immune function, skin health, and even things like producing key chemicals inside of the brain. Mary Ruth's offers an extensive line of quality supplements beyond their multis as well. Let's see, something else that is in my daily routine is CoQ10, but you can pretty much find everything that you need at Mary Ruth's. And right now for their Black Friday sale, everything on Amazon is 30% off. So site-wide on Amazon, anything that you find Mary Ruth's is going to be 30% off. And then when you use my code and stack it on top of that 30%, you'll get an additional 20% off for a total of 50% off. So I will put my code in the description of this video as well as my link. This is their biggest sale of the year, so it's a perfect time to stock up. You guys are going to love Mary Ruth's Organics. Just click the more button below the video and check it out. All right, so this is the next day. As you can see, my sourdough starter has risen. It is active and ready to go. So I'm going to make a staple in my house, some Pullman bread. This recipe is on my blog. It's under like sourdough Pullman bread or something like that. So as you'll see later in the video, Pullman bread is just bread that's made in like a very long square pan. So it's like, bread that you buy at the grocery store. If anybody grew up on like Wonder Bread, or maybe your husband grew up on Wonder Bread or something, and they just really like that look and feel of store-bought bread and are hesitant about sourdough, you need to get a Pullman pan. I have 4 of them, so very often I will make a quadruple batch of this bread. It just goes so fast in my house. It's so good for sandwiches, for French toast, for all the things. And I really just do think there's something to that classic American, like square-shaped loaf of bread. People just like it. People just be liking it. They be eating a lot of it. So I make it a lot. As you can see, these are beautiful orange yolks here. We're not getting very many eggs because all of our chickens that are currently egg layers, we've got a lot of them who've just gotten old on us. They need to be turned into chicken soup. And then our new egg layers, they're not old enough to be laying yet. So we're getting some eggs, not a lot, but man, when I crack open one of our fresh eggs and see those orange yolks, it just makes me so happy. But then it makes me sad when I have to use store-bought eggs. We do have some people around us who sell farm fresh eggs, but I don't know of anywhere that has their chickens like out on pasture to where it would be a noticeable difference than what is at the store. And I totally understand that, because when you raise your chickens out on pasture, you increase the risk of losing them to predators. It's just more work. So that is something that we do, and I believe in, because I'm a lover of the orange yolks. No, it's really all about the nutrition for me, but I totally understand why people don't do it, because chickens are so hard to keep alive. All right, so while the dough for my Pullman bread was mixing, I actually, let's see, yeah, I milled the flour. So for my Pullman bread, I do the same thing that I do with my sourdough artisan bread. I use half hard white and half hard red. I just really like that combination, the structure that it provides for bread. You'll see later in the video, it just works out so well. One thing that I do have to do pretty much with all of my standard bread recipes, when I'm using freshly milled flour, I have to add more. So in my Pullman loaf recipe, that recipe is for like all purpose sifted flour, and it says 3.5 to 4 cups per loaf. Well, when I do freshly milled flour, I have to do 5 cups. So that's just something to take note of. Your dough will be heavier, but the bread will not be dense. It all just works out. It's a really, really good texture. So while my dough was mixing, I have a Bosch mixer that I really, really like. It works very well. I think I've had it for about 1.5 years now. Before I had the Bosch, I had a KitchenAid. I had a couple KitchenAids, and I just went, blew the motors out on them constantly. I don't know if it's me or if it's the KitchenAid, and I was just doing too much. I don't know, but the Bosch seems to be able to handle my large double and triple batches of bread really well. So mixed up that dough. I'm gonna let it proof for the bulk proof here. And I'm making breadcrumbs while I do that with some artisan bread that had overproofed, and it was still good, but I don't know. I needed breadcrumbs anyway, so I had a few loaves of this artisan bread. I thought, I'm just going to turn these into breadcrumbs. Thanksgiving week is upon us, and I know that I'll end up needing breadcrumbs for something. You know, cooking can be so difficult when you have food sensitivities or intolerances, or just when you're trying to be on the healthier side of things. But where there's a will, there's a way, right? So you can make your own long fermented sourdough breadcrumbs, and then you can bread things and you can fry things in tallow and lard and coconut oil, or whatever, good fats and oils that you like to use. And then you can enjoy those same foods that you maybe used to enjoy or want to enjoy, but you can't when they're made with, gluten and stuff that you can't eat. So you can see here, that was the loaf that I was talking about. It was just a little bit overproofed, a little bit dense and gummy on the bottom. I still would have eaten it. I would have just made it into toast or something, but perfect for breadcrumbs. So I once had a friend over, and I was in the middle of making things, and I pulled breadcrumbs out of the oven. She's like, "How do you have time for that, to make breadcrumbs?" I'm like, "I don't. I never intentionally set out to make breadcrumbs. I do, however, forget about dough that is proofing, and then I overproof it, and I have, kind of flat loaves of bread that I then turn into breadcrumbs. So I always have crumbs on hand. That is not an ode to my, preparation and organization skills. That is an ode to me being forgetful about my bread, or just having extra bread that I don't want to go to waste. Maybe it's been sitting on the counter for a few days and I don't think we're going to get to eating the whole loaf, so I just turn it into breadcrumbs, or I make French toast casserole or something. But bread never goes to waste. There's never, in my house, there's no such thing as like a ruined loaf of bread. So there I was just prepping some stew meat. I actually made up a new recipe, or at least kind of a twist on a recipe. I think I've made butternut squash chili before, but I changed some things up. So I used stew meat instead of ground beef. Typically, when I make any kind of chili, I will do half ground beef and half sausage. I just really like the flavor that you get from that. But we don't have any sausage right now, which, oh my goodness, that's unusual for us. You guys know we raise our own pigs, but especially now that John is working full-time on the farm, he comes in for meals. So before, when he was working like off the farm as well, he ate breakfast. Like sometimes I would make him breakfast, but sometimes he would go to the gas station for breakfast, which I know what you're thinking, but our gas station is not like a gas station. It's not a Quick Trip. It's a small town podunk gas station where like we know the guy who owns it and he makes the breakfast sandwiches every morning. So that's where John would get his breakfast. And then I would send lunch with him, but I wasn't like making a big lunch every day. Anyway, moral of the story, now that he's on the farm all the time and he comes in for breakfast and lunch, I just like to make bigger meals. So we're flying through our meat, especially like our breakfast meat, our sausage and our bacon, a lot faster. And I just told him this morning, I need to cut back. I need to not be so extravagant during the week. And I need to go back to what I did when you were still working your other job. And that is, I did really simple breakfast through the week, and then I did my like extravaganzas on the weekend. And he's like, okay, that's fine. But yet I had it built up into my head that it was not fine, and that I had to make an extravagant breakfast every day. And yeah, that's being a woman for you. We just do that. We just make things up in our head and build them up to be these big ideas, right? So here's my slow roasted stew meat. I just had seasoned it with like salt, pepper, maybe some garlic powder, onion powder, Italian seasoning. And now I'm adding it into the base of the chili, which was butternut squash, onion, red pepper, just because that's what I had in the fridge. So that's the inspiration for a lot of my recipes. You guys know that. Now I am adding in some beef bone broth. I had about 6 cups. That's what was left in that half-gallon jar. So 6 cups of beef bone broth, but if I would have had chicken broth, I would have used that. Doesn't really matter. And then I did add in maybe a cup of tomato sauce. And so as I was cooking, I had my Pullman loaf dough, which this is a double batch. I had it proofing in my toaster oven. And when I have a proofing box, but my toaster oven has a proof setting as well that just speeds things up. So that's nice, especially when you do what I did on this particular day and you forget to start your bread early in the morning. I really like to do that. I like to feed my starter at night, and then it's nice and bubbly and ready early in the morning when I wake up because I'm an early riser, and then I get my bread going first thing. But actually, I don't remember. Maybe I didn't forget on this day. Maybe this was the day that the baby just was up all night or something, and I just slept in later than usual. But whatever. The point is, I didn't start my bread super early, and I didn't want to be baking at all hours of the night. So I used my toaster oven to speed that bulk ferment up. But as you'll see, the timing still did not end up working out like I wanted. I shaped my Pullman loaves. So I divided the dough in half, rolled it out. You kind of roll it out like when you're making cinnamon rolls, and then just roll it up and put it in your Pullman pans. So it was already so late in the evening when I say so late, it was like 6 o'clock. My husband always laughs when I say late, because when I say late, I'm talking about like 6 or 7. But it was late enough to where I didn't want to give it that extra couple of hours to rise and then have to stay up while it bakes. So I did shape my loaves, put them back in the toaster oven, and I let them start to rise. And then I interrupted that second rise, put them in the fridge overnight. That way I could just go to sleep. And then I got them out of the fridge in the morning. So here we are on like day 3, right? Day 1, I fed my starter. Day 2, I made the dough, did the bulk rise, and started the second rise. Put the dough in the fridge overnight. Day 3, take it out of the fridge in the morning, finish the rise in the toaster oven. And when you're baking Pullman loaves, you want to let the dough rise until it touches the top. You want it to touch the lid, and then you want to bake it. So this is the butternut squash stew / chili that I made. It was so good. Those are pinto beans, by the way. That is the type of bean that I used. And I did do a 24-hour soak on those beans, and I rinsed them really well. And I know I totally sound like one of those like influencer people that people make fun of on satire videos, like, oh, I soaked the beans and then I fed my sourdough starter. And I do think it's actually hilarious. I would love to have a satire channel where I just make fun of myself. But this is what I like to do, guys. I like it. I'm into it. And I don't get bloated when I eat this way, so that's pretty awesome. So the butternut squash chili / stew was very good. As far as seasonings, I just use all the typical seasonings that you would use for chili powder, cumin. Actually, I put some cinnamon in there, so that was fun. What else was in there? I had some ancho chili powder. Got creative with that one, and then just more salt and pepper. So you saw my breadcrumbs. I bake the breadcrumbs once I have them all blended up. I use my Vitamix to do that. Put them out on a cookie sheet, and then I just put them in the oven at like 275 for an hour or two, and I turn them with a spatula a couple times so they get really dry, and then let them sit on the counter, usually like overnight. You want them to be totally dry before you store them, but if they are dry. So once your breadcrumbs are dry, you can store them at room temperature. I mean, I've stored them for over a month. They usually don't last that long. I use them in things like meatloaf, to bread things, just anything that you would use breadcrumbs in. But they are shelf stable once they're dry for a period of time, that is. So here are my Pullman loaves. Aren't they pretty? These are long fermented, very long fermented because of the interrupted rise times. So long fermented Pullman loaves with half hard white and half hard red wheat, freshly milled flour. My kids love this bread, no complaining. They eat it, my children, with it's soft, unlike artisan bread. So my children with braces can eat this bread. Well, currently I only have one child with braces, because if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that one of my children with braces, the braces fell off. I didn't know that could happen, but that's a thing. Braces can, well, I say fall off, but he was wrestling with his brother, so I guess they got knocked off. And I'm talking about like the whole top row, wire and everything, wire and brackets intact. So yeah, that's life with boys. Talk about a shock, because I'm someone who grew up with one sister, so I constantly have to ask my husband, like, is this normal? Is it okay? Are boys just like this? And he's like, yes, it's fine. All right, well, that wraps it up. The recipes that I talked about, aside from the chili, that was just improvised. But the Pullman loaf, that can be found on my blog at hopefulheightsblog.com.